my, what big tomatoes you have.
Well,
Frankie Flowers, Ferragine. Beautiful produce. You were very busy this morning before you got into work.
Yeah, I went down to the Ontario Food Terminal this morning. My father goes there 3 to 4 times per week. A lot of the produce that you're seeing here, locally grown, and this is from Chapatura Produce. They're great. So when you're seeing right now at your grocery stores, you're seeing a lot of great peppers right now. Of course, they are the bell peppers. And then now what everybody's getting excited for is tomato season.
Yeah. My dad just gave me a bunch of his, and I gotta say, this is impressive. He has one steak with 30 tomatoes. They don't look pretty, but they taste the best when they have this sun-ripened yellow-green.
Yeah. So this tomato here,
look at that.
You can see how big that is. This is a variety of tomatoes that we passed down for years and years and years that my grandfather, my nunno, had, and this is one that we've grown in one of our own gardens. And Gavin saw this tomato and he said, "Dad, you got to show that on TV." And I thought, you know what, let's talk a little bit about tomatoes. So first off, what I want to talk about tomatoes that you have in your own yard right now is they don't look as perfect as what some of the store-bought ones look like. So the gentleman at Chapatura Produce, you know, they grow them, they make sure that they pick a lot of the perfect ones out there, and you can see the bottom of this one, not quite as nice. So that doesn't have anything to do with flavor.
No,
secondly,
quite the opposite.
A lot of tomatoes, and
you're gonna cut it?
Oh yeah, let's go for it.
No.
Let's go for it. We'll do a little side cut right here.
Oh, you could have made a nice salad.
Oh, you know, no, we'll eat it here. This is such a meaty tomato. But what you're seeing right in the tomato there is you can see those seeds that are down there. And you can see how the seeds are surrounded by pulp. So what you can do is you can go through and collect the seeds through a tomato. You can then put them in water. And when you put them in water, over about 2 to 3 days, you'll see that the seed's going to separate from the pulp. And that's when you strain it out. And at that time, then you dry the seed, put it in a paper bag or a paper envelope, store it for the year. And you can collect seeds for years and years to come. So if you're looking for heirloom varieties. Some of the other varieties, if you want to take a taste of the tomato here.
This is the best, Frankie, and all you have to do is add some salt, some basil, and some olive oil. Hang on a second. So you take the seeds out and you
so what you need to
change the water for the 2 to 3 days?
No, so you can see right there, there's your seed. So
you don't change the water?
No, you're just going to put them in water. The water's going to create a fermentation process.
Like at room temperature or in the fridge?
Room temperature, you're just going to put them in water on the top of, by a windowsill in sun. Fermentation process, 2 to 3 days. You'll stir it every day. That'll take, see all the pulp that comes around, all that coating that's around the side of the seed? That'll separate that, and then that'll allow you to put it, to dry them first in sun, and then after you're done drying them in the sun, then that's when you put them in a paper bag or into an envelope. You store them in a cool, dry spot for the entire winter season that doesn't freeze, and then next year you can, so that's how you can pass tomato varieties on and on and on and on.
That's what's so cool, because these are your nunno, your grandfather.
Oh, they're truly an heirloom tomato that's been around forever. It's a meaty tomato, right? It's not really like your sauce tomato that's here. So a lot of things that have happened with tomatoes, and she'll continue to eat this year, is that we've had something on the bottom of your tomato that's called blossom end rot. That blossom end rot on the bottom of your tomato is a scabbing that you usually see at the bottom of the tomato. That there is something that will not correct for this year. So if you have a tomato plant right now that has a ton of blossom end rot, then just get rid of that plant. You're not going to have those great looking tomatoes. If you have any tomatoes out there right now, and you can see the plant that we have on this side that has the yellowing leaves on the bottom, first thing is I want to tell everybody that's grown a tomato in this size of pot, that was totally wrong. This is such a small pot for the size of tomato. Next season, a lesson to learn is to go to a larger container. Yellowing leaves on the bottom of a tomato plant is an indication of first lack of fertilizer. Also sometimes the start that they're getting a little bit of a blight. So what you want to do is remove those yellow leaves. You want to put them in a larger pot, and you want to continue to harvest. If you're not harvesting your tomatoes, make sure you do. Best way to harvest them is allow them to vine ripe. So this one here that's right here.
Wait for them to turn like at least what, 75% red?
Even 70 to 85%. And how do you take it off? You can either just twist and pull. It'll come off nice and easy. And then let's say that you have this tomato. A lot of people put them into the refrigerator.
Bad.
Takes all the flavor away from the tomato. Room temperature. That's where you want to store them. If you have green tomatoes later on in the season and you want to make them turn red, you take one ripe tomato, you put it into a bag of green tomatoes. The ethylene that's in this ripe tomato will release and ripen all the other tomatoes.
Great trick.
You got to make sure. Do not. And even with your ripe tomatoes, everybody thinks, I'm going to put my tomatoes on the windowsill in the sun. No, you want to make sure that you put them in the darkest spot in your kitchen.
Okay.
At room temperature. Never put them in the sun because they'll make it go through and ripen too quickly.
Okay, and they get that acidic.
Yeah,
acidity.
And even with a green tomato, remember that a green tomato should always be put in dark to make it turn red. The light has nothing to do with it to make it turn red.
Some people remember fried green tomatoes? Some people like to jar green tomatoes, and you will be doing, we call it sugo.
Yeah.
In the fall, you'll see bushels and bushels of
We're
tomatoes
doing that in 2 weeks from now, and they've already started. So that's the ones in the front there, the sauce tomatoes. So for those right now that really want to get into doing their tomato sauce, you can start already. They're available. I saw them at Longo's. I saw them at Highland Farms for sale. You know, you can get a fairly big box for around $15.
What's that variety called? Is that the plum tomato?
That's aroma tomato, plum tomato. This is local garlic, and the lesson with local garlic when it comes to tomato, makes a great sauce. The other lesson too is if you had any problems with insects in your garden and with your tomato plants, remember locating garlic close to those tomato plants will help out repelling insects naturally.
Yeah.
If you have insects on your plants right now, the first thing that you should do, we talked about this the other day on Twitter.
They're gross.
And that's with a lot of the beetles, but even if you have a tomato hornworm, picking them off, removing them is a way that you can discard them.
Okay.
Or you can do insecticidal soap.
Okay. And also, if you don't want to make these tomatoes, you can always just buy the jar stuff.
Yeah, you know what?
Basil. And olive oil, salt and pepper. Yeah. It's good.
And for those out there, if you're thinking about doing tomatoes for the first time this year, like jarring them, it is a commitment. It takes a long time. Those jarred tomatoes are actually fantastic. They really are. So don't feel bad if you just use the jarred tomatoes, but always use fresh basil. And remember, always buy local as well. You can see the peppers that we have out here, and people are harvesting peppers right now. I had another great question, too, and they said, you know, with this green pepper, once it got older, eventually turned to red. Remember, all red peppers, all the orange peppers and the yellow peppers are green in the beginning, but a green pepper that's grown as a green bell pepper will always be green. So the red pepper starts off green, then transitions over to red. If you had a problem growing peppers this year, it's just been a cool season. These guys here are grown in southwestern Ontario where their daylight is a little longer and the temperatures are a little longer. But thank you very much to Chavature Produce. And for all those growing at home and all those that grow each and every day as farmers, thank you for providing food for all
Beautiful job, and it's such hard work, and the commitment shows. These are the most stunning peppers I've ever seen. You could also barbecue the red ones, take the skins off after they're charred, and you can have and enjoy those fire-roasted, barbecued, canned peppers all year long with some oil.
You can put them in hummus. You can make it. It's awesome.
We're getting hungry. Thank you for sharing that big tomato. Right now, we're going to throw things over to Melanie, and it's delicious.